Team USA has been struggling on the international stage in the past few years, with the rest of the world showing them that they are catching up, and that the US can't just send their C or even B team anymore if they want to win. This summer for the Olympics, the US acknowledged that they are now on a mission to take revenge on the whole world and remind everyone who is the best basketball country on earth, the Redeem Team 2.0. And what if we told you that they had just put together their best roster ever? Yes, even better than 1992 or 2008. The kind of team that is supposed to completely destroy every other team on its path. A roster full of future Hall of Famers, but also very well constructed, which just seems unbeatable. And yet, despite all that, there is a real possibility that they don't win the gold medal in Paris. And that's not even the worst part, because whether or not they win in 2024, the future might not be as bright as they think. This may seem like a wild take, but it could legitimately happen. Don't get us wrong, we are not going to tell you that they are not heavy favorites. In fact, we can tell you they will most likely win gold, but it might not be as easy as everyone claims. Some of the issues Team USA has faced in the previous two FIBA World Cups, and even in the last Olympics, will still apply to this squad, no matter how good, stacked, and well-built it is. And if they were to not win at all, it would easily be one of the biggest upsets in basketball history. Why? Well, because this Team USA roster is just insane. There are currently 3 top 15 players of all time in LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant. And if that is not enough for you, there is quite literally a 4th MVP in Joel Embiid. The thing is, they might not all be in their prime, but they are still very good. Top 10 players in the league kind of good. Unlike the Dream Team, for instance, which had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson on the tail end of their careers, making the team on paper look better than what it was. But it's not only about the names on the back of the jerseys and the accolades. This team is one of the best constructed rosters in Team USA history. Obviously, the scoring aspect is covered, as always. Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, but the shooting is too. Spacing is not going to be an issue with the likes of Steph, KD, Booker, Halliburton, Jrue, and Kawhi. But do you remember what really hurt Team USA in their last few competitions? Their lack of size. Don't worry, they took care of that too, with Embiid and Davis now battling for the center spot. What about defense then? There are almost no bad defenders on this team. If they wanted to, they could even run an insane defensive lineup, such as Jrue Holiday, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, and Anthony Davis. The worst part for their opponents is that this lineup would still most likely crush them offensively. They also have plenty of playmaking, Steph, LeBron, or Tyrese, and players who don't need the ball in their hands 24/7. That's very important, because when you have this many stars, not everyone is going to have a great amount of touches. Players like Curry, Tatum, Jrue, or even Kawhi won't need to see the ball in their hands the entire game to be great. This team has no real weakness, and it was time they put together a real squad. In the 2019 FIBA World Cup, they lost to France. Not the end of the world, but still a disappointment. In the 2023 FIBA World Cup, they lost to Germany and then to Canada. It's obvious by the quality of the teams that they don't care as much about the World Cup, but not even bringing home a medal like they did in 2023 is still disgraceful. They won the 2020 Olympics though, but it was not as one-sided as it once had been. They lost to France in the group stage and then struggled at times in the final against France once again, barely coming out on top in a 5-point win. Probably their worst outing since the 2004 debacle. Now, obviously, this 2024 squad is much better than the 2004 and 2020 ones. However, the gold medal isn't guaranteed yet, and there are a few reasons as to why. Some of the opponents are just way better than what they used to be. Most of the teams they will face will have one NBA player at the very least. Some will have several. They could face Serbia and Jokic, Greece and Giannis. This is not saying that these teams will beat the US, but just to show how the game is evolving. Team USA used to have all the best players in the world playing for them. Now they have to play against them. Some teams are even filled with NBA players. Look at Team Canada, for instance. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray, RJ Barrett, Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort. They got a real squad full of not only NBA players, but great NBA players. What if both SGA and Murray are on fire in the same game? The fact that this is a one-game elimination tournament makes upsets more likely. It also means that if Canada is on fire from 3 in a game where Team USA struggles, things can get spooky very quickly. FIBA is also a place where lesser NBA players turn into the best versions of themselves that we don't see in the league. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson was looking like prime Kobe during the last World Cup. An Evan Fournier-led team beat a Kevin Durant-led team in the 2020 Olympics. Another huge factor is team chemistry. If you look at most countries, they have nearly identical squads at every major tournament. They have been playing together for years, sometimes even decades. They might not have the same level of talent, but they know each other perfectly. They know what plays to run and when to run them. Overall, there is just much more structure. In the 2023 FIBA World Cup, there is no debate that Team USA had the most talent on paper. But on paper doesn't win you games. The players had no chemistry because every tournament they put together a different bunch of stars and think they will automatically win it all because they're, well, Americans. During the last World Cup, there was a glaring contrast with Canada and Germany, where the players play together every year. These guys play as a team and don't take turns individually to score. And no matter how good this 2024 squad is, their team chemistry will always be one of the lowest among the countries playing in the Olympics. And you can't really blame them. This is just the way Team USA operates. They received a warning in 2004 when they lost to Argentina. They immediately responded by assembling a great squad and became almost unbeatable for a decade. No other country could even dream of beating them. So team chemistry wasn't really all that important. But the rest of the world is rapidly improving. All the best players in the NBA are not from the US. Now that the gap in talent is shrinking, you definitely need more chemistry than ever. Soon enough, Team USA won't be able to simply rely on talent and nothing else to win. However, there is one more thing, and that might be the biggest point: the FIBA rules. Just like team chemistry, there is something that star power cannot change. No matter how good their team is, they will always struggle a bit with FIBA's style of play. Most of the Team USA roster doesn't have a ton of experience with it. Some players like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, who have spent several tournaments with Team USA, are familiar with it. But even they pale in comparison to other players who either play in Europe or simply play with their national team every single year. The rules aren't even the same. The biggest difference has to be the 3-second defensive rule, which simply does not exist in FIBA. This alone is the reason why guys like Luka Doncic think it's easier to score in the NBA than in FIBA.
I'm just saying because of the rules. Because the guy can stay. If you have a guy like, let's say, Rudy Gobert, he can stay in the paint on defense 3 seconds, however he wants. Like, just because of that rule, you can have 10 more points easily.
Why? Because you get guys like Rudy Gobert who can stay in the paint all game long if they want. In the NBA, they are forced to leave the paint at some point. And what happens when a certain team has Rudy Gobert and Victor Wembanyama in the same front court? No matter how good Team USA is, they will struggle to score at times against this team. No matter what you do or how you scheme against France, you will always have one of Rudy or Victor in the paint at all times. These two guys playing together with FIBA rules might be the best defensive front court of all time. This has caused real issues for Team USA in the past, and they have struggled recently against France. Again, their team will be much better this year and will have a ton of offensive talent. But what if France suddenly gets hot from 3 and you still can't access the paint? This is a completely different style of play from what they're used to in the NBA. Not only do they never see 2 7-footers on the court at the same time, they've also never seen 2 7-footers who can camp in the paint. That means relying more on 3-pointers, and although they have got tremendous shooters, it's not as reliable as getting easier looks in the paint. The overall physicality of the game in FIBA is also different. In the last few tournaments, the US have been lacking in that department. Basketball in Europe is just more intense, and NBA players are very clearly not used to it most of the time. If you combine all the stuff we just talked about, there is a recipe for a historical upset. Is it unlikely? Yes. Is it nearly impossible like in 2016 when the US only had to play one half every game? Definitely not. The sheer amount of pure talent that Team USA has assembled this year will most likely be enough to win it all though. But these last few tournaments have shown us that talent is the only part of the game where they are superior to the rest of the world. The thing about this 2024 squad is that their best players are old. This is probably the last time we will see KD, LeBron, and Steph in the Olympics. Kawhi Leonard and Drew Holiday too. And every year, more and more international players get drafted in the NBA and become some of the best players in the world. So yes, Team USA might win in 2024. They might even wipe everybody and make us look like fools. But what about 2028? What about 2032? The next generation of American NBA players is not bad whatsoever. Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Devin Booker will be and have been great for Team USA, but will they be as good as the previous versions? We saw what happened in 2004 when the US sent a team that was not so dominant. It's unlikely that the 2028 or 2032 team will be as good as the 2024 squad, or the Redeem team. These rosters had multiple top 10 players of all time. It was a big reason as to why they were so dominant. On the other hand, you've got countries like France developing new talent year after year. Wembanyama is the obvious one, but what about Alex Sarr? Zachary Rissacher, Bilal Koulibaly, Nolan Traore, who is projected to be a top 3 pick in 2025. Is it really crazy to think that this team could possibly beat Team USA in 2028? Think about the state of international players 20 years ago, the state of the other countries on the big stage 20 years ago. Things have evolved so much in that time span. Now imagine how things will be 20 years from now. Again, this is not to say Team USA will become irrelevant. They might still be number 1, but we are definitely witnessing the start of a new era, a shift in international basketball, where Team USA might not be as dominant.